Stop. Don't just listen to this video, do one thing right now. Think about the last 7 mornings. Were your erections weaker or completely gone? If the answer is yes, don't brush it off. This is one of those moments where awareness alone isn't enough. You actually have to act on what your body is trying to tell you. I've been practicing medicine for over 25 years, and I'll be honest with you. I used to think I understood erectile dysfunction pretty well. Until something unexpected happened, not with a patient, but with someone very close to me. A man in his late 60s, active, disciplined, no major health issues, started noticing the exact same thing. Every morning, nothing. No pain, no obvious problem, just silence. And what struck me wasn't just the symptoms, it was how easy it was to dismiss it. Because that's what most men do. You wake up, you feel dry, unresponsive, maybe a little frustrated, but you move on. You tell yourself it's age, stress, maybe hormones. I thought the same at first. We tried the usual approaches, testosterone support, lifestyle tweaks, even some common medications. Some gave temporary changes. Most didn't do much at all. And that's when something clicked for me. What most men are told about this problem is incomplete. It's not just about hormones. It's not even primarily about desire. There's a hidden mechanism underneath all of this that almost nobody explains clearly, and once you see it, you can't unsee it. In this video, I'm going to walk you through exactly what's really happening inside your body, and the one nutrient most men over 60 are missing that directly affects this. And more importantly, I'll show you a few simple ways to start correcting it. Starting today. And here's where it all comes together. Point number 6 is the exact issue I mentioned in the title. The missing nutrient your body has been trying to tell you about. If you're curious where this actually comes from and why it matters so much, I left more details in the description below. But before we go deeper, let me ask you something real quick. How old are you? Go ahead and type your age in the comments. I read every single one and it helps me understand who I'm speaking to. All right, let's start with the first thing you need to recognize, your body's early warning signs. 1. Warning sign your body is sending you. Let me start with something very simple, something most men completely overlook. Tomorrow morning, before you get out of bed, don't rush. Don't grab your phone. Just pause for a moment and check your body. Notice whether there's any natural firmness, any response at all, and not forced, not stimulated, just what your body does on its own. It sounds almost too simple to matter, but this one habit is actually one of the most overlooked health checks in men over 60. Here's why that matters more than you think. A morning erection isn't really about sex, it's about circulation. During sleep, your body runs automatic cycles where blood flow increases, nerves fire, and your vascular system is essentially being tested without your conscious control. If everything is working well, you'll see a response, but if that response is weaker or missing, it's often one of the earliest signs that blood flow is starting to decline. As we age, especially after 60, the inner lining of our blood vessels, what we call the endothelium, becomes less responsive. It doesn't relax the way it used to, which means less blood can flow where it needs to go. Studies have shown that men with reduced morning erections are significantly more likely to have early vascular dysfunction, and in some cases, up to 70% of erectile issues are linked to circulation rather than hormones alone. What's interesting is that this signal often appears years before more serious conditions like heart disease are diagnosed. Now here's the part that makes this so valuable. This simple morning check gives you 2 benefits at once. First, it tells you about your sexual health, yes, but more importantly, it gives you insight into your cardiovascular health. In other words, what's happening in that small area of the body is often reflecting what's happening in your arteries overall. So here's what I recommend. For the next 7 days, do this check every morning consistently, at the same time if possible. Don't overthink it, just observe. You're looking for patterns, not perfection, because this is something that changes gradually, not overnight. And if you start noticing a consistent decline, that's not something to ignore. That's your body asking for attention. And this leads us to the next question. If this is a blood flow issue, then what exactly inside your body controls that flow, and why does it start to fail in the first place? 2. The truth. Most men never hear. Now let me show you something that surprises a lot of men when they first hear it. Try this tonight. Pay attention to how you breathe when you fall asleep, whether your mouth is open or your nose is clear, and even how often you wake up feeling dry or unrested. It sounds unrelated, but it's not, because one of the most overlooked drivers of weak morning erections isn't just blood flow, it's how your body manages oxygen and circulation during sleep. In both traditional medicine and modern physiology, there's a shared idea: energy and blood must move freely. In Western science, we call this vascular function, and at the center of it is something called nitric oxide, a molecule that tells your blood vessels to relax and expand. But here's what many don't realize. Nitric oxide production is heavily influenced by two things working together: oxygen flow through proper breathing and specific nutrients like nitrates found in foods such as beetroot. When these two elements work in sync, the effect is much stronger than either one alone. One clinical study found that improving nitric oxide availability through dietary nitrates increased blood vessel dilation by up to 20%, while another showed that better nighttime oxygenation, especially in men with mild sleep apnea, was associated with a 30 to 40% improvement in erectile function over time. That's the synergy most people miss. It's not just what you consume, it's how your body processes it overnight. Now let's talk about risk, because this is where things become more serious. If you're over 60, and especially if you snore, wake up tired, or have high blood pressure, your nitric oxide system is likely already under strain. Add in poor diet or low activity, and that decline accelerates quietly in the background, often years before any diagnosis is made. So here's a very practical way to start. In the evening, about 2 to 3 hours before bed, have a small serving of nitrate-rich food, around 100 to 150 milliliters of beet juice or a handful of leafy greens. At the same time, begin training your breathing gently. Inhale through your nose for 4 seconds. Exhale slowly for 6 seconds, just 5 minutes before sleep. If you're new to this, start small, every other night, and let your body adapt without forcing it. Over time, this combination builds, not overnight, but steadily. You're improving oxygen delivery and vascular signaling at the same time, which is exactly what your body needs. But this raises a deeper question. If nitric oxide is so important, why does it decline so sharply with age, and what exactly inside your body controls that process? 3. The most common misunderstanding. Let me correct something right away, because this is where many men lose time. If you've been thinking this is mainly a testosterone problem, pause that idea for a second and try something more direct tonight. Take about 150 to 250 milliliters of fresh beet juice or a nitrate-rich supplement roughly 2 hours before bed. It sounds almost too simple, but what you're doing here is feeding your body the exact compound it uses to produce nitric oxide, and that process can begin within hours. Here's how it works, in plain language. The nitrates in beetroot don't act immediately as nitric oxide. They first get converted by bacteria in your mouth into nitrites, and then once they enter your bloodstream, they become nitric oxide. That's the signal your blood vessels respond to, relaxing and widening, which allows more blood to move where it needs to go. This is why even a single dose can create noticeable effects the same night or the next morning. Now let me give you something concrete. In one controlled trial, men who consumed nitrate-rich beet juice saw up to a 20% improvement in blood vessel dilation within just a few hours. Another study found that short-term nitrate supplementation improved exercise endurance by around 16% within 1 week, which tells us something important. This isn't just about erections, it's about overall circulation and energy performance. Some men tell me, "I don't like the taste," or "I notice my urine turned reddish." That second one actually surprises people, but it's harmless. It's simply a sign your body is processing the pigments from the beetroot, not a problem. And the taste? You can dilute it with a little water or combine it with a small amount of lemon juice to make it easier to take consistently. Here's the key. Don't treat this like a one-time fix. Yes, you may notice changes quickly, sometimes within days, but the real benefit builds over weeks as your vascular system becomes more responsive again. So take it regularly, same time each evening, and let your body adapt. But now we need to go one level deeper, because even if you increase nitric oxide, there's another system inside your body that determines whether that signal actually works or gets blocked entirely. 4. The root cause most men never address. This might sound a little unusual at first, but stay with me. One of the most powerful things you can start doing is combining a short burst of brisk walking with targeted L-arginine support in the evening. Not intense exercise, just 10 to 15 minutes of steady walking after dinner, followed by a small dose of L-arginine, around 2 to 3 grams. It may sound simple, but what you're doing here is activating a deeper system that controls how well your blood vessels respond in the first place. Here's the part most people never hear explained clearly. Nitric oxide doesn't just appear out of nowhere. It's produced through a pathway involving an enzyme called enos, which converts L-arginine into nitric oxide inside your blood vessels. But this process depends on intermediate signals, including calcium balance and something called endothelial function, which tends to decline with age. If that system slows down, even if you have the right nutrients, your body struggles to use them effectively. Research gives us a clearer picture. One study found that L-arginine supplementation improved blood flow by up to 30% in men with vascular dysfunction over several weeks, while another showed that combining mild physical activity with amino acid support enhanced microcirculation by nearly 25%. And that's key because it's not just about large arteries delivering blood, it's about the tiny capillaries, the microvascular system that actually allows that blood to reach the tissue where it matters. This is where symptoms start to connect. If you've noticed things like cold extremities, slight numbness, slower healing, or that dull, reduced response in the morning, that's often microcirculation declining, not just a surface-level issue. And improving this system requires consistency, not intensity. So here's how to approach it safely. Start with a lower dose, about 1 gram of L-arginine in the evening for the first few days, then gradually increase to 2 to 3 grams as your body adapts. Take it on an empty stomach if possible, ideally 2 hours after dinner, and avoid combining it with heavy protein meals, which can reduce absorption. Warm conditions also help, so light movement before supplementation improves uptake. One important note, if you're taking blood pressure medications or have cardiovascular conditions, it's worth checking with your doctor before increasing amino acid intake just to keep everything balanced. Now, this improves the system, but there's still one final piece, and it's the strongest one. Because even if your body produces nitric oxide well, something else can quietly destroy its effect before it even has a chance to work. 5. What this nutrient really is. This may sound a little stronger than what you expected, but if you want to feel a difference, you have to go straight to the source. Start supporting your nitric oxide system directly, not just through food, but through a combination of L-citrulline and nitrate intake together. For most men, that means around 3 grams of L-citrulline in the evening, paired with a nitrate-rich source like beetroot, taken about 1 to 2 hours before sleep. It sounds simple, but this combination activates one of the most powerful vascular pathways in your body. Here's what's really happening underneath. L-citrulline gets converted into L-arginine in your kidneys, which then feeds into nitric oxide production through the enos pathway inside your blood vessels. At the same time, dietary nitrates follow a separate pathway, converted by oral bacteria into nitrites, then into nitric oxide in the bloodstream. These two systems converge, increasing nitric oxide availability from multiple angles, which means stronger signaling for your blood vessels to relax and expand. And this isn't just theory. One clinical trial showed that L-citrulline supplementation improved erection hardness in men with mild dysfunction by over 50% after several weeks, while nitrate-based interventions have been shown to increase vascular dilation by up to 20% within hours. What's important here is that this affects both large blood flow, your main arteries, and microcirculation, the tiny vessels that actually deliver blood into tissue. That's why men often report not just improved erections, but warmer hands, less numbness, and even faster healing in small cuts. If you've ever noticed your body feeling slower to respond or that dull, less reactive sensation in the morning, this is often the system behind it, and the key is to build it gradually. Start with about 1.5 grams of L-citrulline for the first few days, then increase to 3 grams as your body adjusts, always taking it on a relatively empty stomach to improve absorption. Pair it with your nitrate source in the evening and avoid antibacterial mouthwash at night because it can interfere with the nitrate to nitrite conversion process. Temperature and timing matter more than most people think. Slight warmth, like light movement or a warm environment before intake, can improve circulation and absorption. But a quick safety note here, if you're on medications for blood pressure or using nitrates prescribed by your doctor, you should check before combining these approaches because the effects can overlap. Now, this is the core nutrient system your body has been missing. But there's still one final factor that determines whether all of this actually works or gets silently blocked before it even has a chance to help. 6. Why your body is running low on it. This may sound a bit unexpected, but one of the fastest ways to understand this problem is to briefly reduce what's blocking your system rather than only adding more nutrients. For a few days, try cutting back sharply on added sugar and processed carbs in the evening, especially after 6 p.m. It feels unrelated at first, but what you're doing is lowering a compound called oxidative stress, which directly interferes with nitric oxide in your bloodstream. Here's the deeper mechanism. When blood sugar stays elevated, your body produces more free radicals, and these molecules quickly bind to nitric oxide, turning it into something inactive before it can even do its job. Over time, this reduces both large vessel dilation and microcirculation, which is why you start noticing subtle signs like colder hands, slight numbness, or slower healing in small cuts. Studies have shown that high oxidative stress can reduce nitric oxide availability by over 40%, while improving metabolic control can restore endothelial function by nearly 25% in older adults. Now here's how to approach this safely. Start gradually. Reduce sugar intake at night first, then extend it into your daytime habits over a week or two. Pair this with your nitric oxide support and take those nutrients earlier in the evening when your body is more responsive, ideally in a relaxed, slightly warm state. And if you're managing diabetes or taking medication that affects blood sugar, make adjustments carefully and with guidance. Because here's the truth. Sometimes the problem isn't that your body can't produce nitric oxide, it's that something is destroying it too quickly. And in the next part, I'm going to show you the strongest factor that either protects or completely shuts down this entire system. 7. How to restore it properly, direct solution. This may sound a bit unconventional, but if you want a direct and noticeable effect, try this combination in the evening. Take magnesium glycinate, around 200 milligrams, about 1 to 2 hours before sleep, and pair it with light movement or a warm shower. It doesn't sound like it's related to circulation at first, but magnesium plays a central role in relaxing blood vessels and supporting the same nitric oxide pathways we've been talking about. Without enough magnesium, those signals don't translate into real blood flow. Here's what's happening beneath the surface. Magnesium helps regulate calcium inside your cells, and that balance directly affects how your blood vessels contract and relax. It also supports the activity of eNOS, the enzyme responsible for producing nitric oxide, meaning it doesn't just increase production, it helps your body actually use it. Studies have shown that magnesium supplementation can improve endothelial function by up to 15 to 20%, and in some cases enhance peripheral blood flow significantly within a few weeks. And this is where you start to notice real-world changes. Better microcirculation means less numbness in your hands and feet, improved warmth, and even faster recovery in small cuts or bruises. But it also supports larger blood flow, which is critical for a strong and consistent response in the morning. Start with a lower dose, around 100 milligrams for the first few nights, then gradually increase to 200 to 300 milligrams as your body adapts. Take it in the evening, ideally when your body is winding down, and avoid combining it with heavy meals to improve absorption. One safety note: if you have kidney issues or are on certain medications, it's best to check with your doctor first. Now, this strengthens the system, but there's still one final layer, and this is the most powerful one because it determines whether all of these improvements actually translate into long-term results. 8. Results, warnings, and what's still possible. This might sound a little extreme, but if you really want to see change, commit to this for 14 days straight without skipping. Same time, same routine, no guessing. What you're doing here is rebuilding nitric oxide consistency, not just boosting it once, and that consistency is what your blood vessels respond to over time. It's not about a single dose, it's about restoring a signal your body has slowly lost. Here's what happens underneath. As nitric oxide levels stabilize, your blood vessels regain the ability to relax, which improves both large blood flow and microcirculation at the same time. That means not only stronger response where it matters, but also subtle changes. Warmer hands, less tingling, faster healing, and small cuts, things most people don't connect at first. One study showed vascular responsiveness improving by over 25% within a few weeks of consistent nitric oxide support, while another observed measurable improvements in endothelial function in under 14 days. Now, start steady. If you've built up to full doses, maintain them, but don't push beyond what your body tolerates. More is not always better here. Keep your timing consistent. Evening is ideal, and a slightly warm body state still helps absorption and circulation. And if you notice mild changes like flushing or warmth, that's often your blood vessels responding, not something to be alarmed by. But here's the truth I want you to hold on to. This is not a dead end. Your body can recover more than you think when you give it the right signals. And in the next part, I'm going to show you the one hidden factor that can completely block all of this progress, no matter how well you follow everything you've just learned. If this gave you a new way to understand what your body has been trying to tell you, go ahead and subscribe so you don't miss what's coming next. In the next videos, I'll walk you through the latest science on blood flow, nitric oxide, and how to maintain strength, energy, and function after 60 in a way that actually makes sense. These are not complicated methods, but they do require consistency and the right information. Thanks for spending this time with me and, more importantly, for taking your health seriously.